Today we held our first debate with just 4 presidential candidates. Many topics on foreign policy were discussed, and there were many interesting disagreements between the candidates. Let's find out some details about what each candidate had to say. Overall, it seemed that the 3 candidates, Michelle Scott, Adrian Jules, and Vodafone May, agreed on most things and opposed Nicole Clark. However, Adrian Jules was the candidate who seemed to agree with her slightly on a few things. Jules was probably the quietest out of the 4 candidates at the debate today. On one topic, Jules agreed with Michelle Scott, not saying that he was advocating for isolationism, but that we should rebuild our country first and then help other countries. However, he says this is not definitive, but we should do what's best at the given time of an issue. On issues with Syria, he seemed to slightly agree with Nicole Clark, recognizing that there will be refugees, but he disagrees with Clark on using the UN and says we should take a further peacekeeping role, have more presence in Syria, and help Syrians take back their homeland, and that it's not effective to relocate them as refugees. He didn't have much comment on anything to do with issues in North Korea. During closing statements, candidates were asked to address free trade. This is a clip from Jules.
I strongly agree with the ideal behind free trade, but I don't think the United States is in a position or in an economic state to be able to enforce free trade.
Next up is candidate Michelle Scott, who had many strong opinions and stances on different topics. She agreed with Jules and disagreed with Nicole Clark, saying that we should focus on our country first and rebuild unless our country is directly threatened by another. When it came to issues with Syria, she says we need to recognize Russian presence there and must take into account that we're not just getting involved with one country. She also said we should rebuild Aleppo and Syria and help in the country instead of relocating refugees, as she insists there is no way to vet them. She also got into a little issue with, quote, no-go zones. LRC News and Media fact-checked this term, and Swedish police says that it is not a term they deem fitting for what is going on in Sweden. Another topic, she says that North Korea is non-negotiable and that we should work with China, who deports refugees that come there. Finally, she says that we should only trade with non-oppressive countries who respect human rights, and she says that some attacks that ISIS takes credit for may just be inspired by ISIS and not directly connected to it.
During the debate, Nicole Clark opted for a more diplomatic approach to help America be a good example to other countries. She also stated that America could afford to spend on aid for other countries if conflicts arose. As expected, Clark sided with Jules on some issues, such as aiding Syrian refugees with stricter vetting and promoting American trade with other countries. However, she didn't really take a side on free trade in America because she said it can work in some cases, but we'd have to do more research on its effects. Nicole Clark and Michelle Scott did argue about how to address North Korea, as Scott wanted to cut ties with them altogether and work with China to get escapees out of the country. A good plan, but Clark argued that there was no guarantee that China would cooperate. The candidates also argued over the existence of no-go refugee zones in Sweden, and the issue continues to be hotly debated.
During yesterday's debate, Vodafone May stood strongly with his ideas of putting Americans first and dealing with other nations' problems second. He agreed with Michelle Scott on a lot of things, but wasn't able to get much talk into the debate due to Mrs. Scott and Mrs. Clark constantly bashing heads. Before the debate, however, he informed me that he did in fact put commercials into other classes, hoping to see his messages and ideas spread to the rest of the voters. No further information was given about the Vodafone May and Michelle controversy, as some would call it, but the only thing we can do is go off of what the candidates tell us. Hopefully next debate, Mr. May can get more speaking time so that he can delve deeper into his economic and social policies.
Finally, here's the clip of the little scuttle between Vodafone May and Adrian Jules.
Go ahead. Okay. Well, personally, I believe that, if we want to be childish like that, let's go ahead. But I think that personally, a vast majority of the attacks by,
Jules felt that May's comment was directed towards him, while May claims that he was speaking to the lady candidates of the group.